You remember the laugh track, the sped-up chase, the jaunty yakety sax. Benny Hill felt like British TV distilled into one goofy, guilty pleasure hour. For decades, his sketches were appointment viewing, slapstick, quick-fire sight gags, and the final frantic chase with Hill being pursued, or pursuing, a line of Hill's angels. But by the late 1980s, a storm was building. Not a single sketch, not one scandalous frame, but a changing world. And one meeting in an office that ended a career high on the pop charts and low on cultural patience. So what was the scene that took the Benny Hill show off the air? The short answer, there wasn't one definitive sketch that toppled him overnight. That headline-friendly version, of one scene did it, no, makes a punchy thumbnail, but reality is grayer. The show had been attacked for years as old-fashioned and sexist. Critics pointed to repeated gags where women were objectified and men leered, and campaigners argued those conventions were becoming unacceptable as public taste and broadcasting standards shifted. At the same time, audiences were shrinking and production costs were rising, a lethal mix for any program flagged as problematic. The end came in a short, famous meeting in 1989. John Howard Davies, head of light entertainment at Thames Television, called Benny Hill in expecting to plan more work, and instead told him the company wouldn't renew his contract. Davies later explained the decision bluntly. The show was past its sell-by date, audiences had fallen, the series cost a lot to make, and Hill, then in his 60s, was looking a little tired. For Hill, who had given Thames huge profits and global success, the dismissal felt brutal. For the network, it was a business and reputational calculation at a time when broadcasters were under pressure to modernize. But why did the myth of a single scene persist? Because cultural storytelling loves a villain and a turning point. It's easier to point at one clip and say that did it, than to explain decades of shifting tastes, international syndication dynamics, and boardroom conversations about money and image. Also, decades later, younger viewers watching old clips, especially sketches with obvious sexist or racial elements, felt shock rather than nostalgia. That generational reaction gave fuel to the idea that one sketch had finally crossed the line for everyone. In truth, critics, regulators, and executives had been circling the format for years. So what does this mean for Benny Hill's legacy? It's complicated. At its best, Hill's craft was impeccable. Visual comedy, timing, and an ability to make farce feel universal. At its worst, his reliance on objectification and dated stereotypes looks unacceptable today. The show's rise and fall tells a bigger story about comedy itself, how jokes age, how audiences' moral barometers shift, and how the market rewards or punishes those who don't evolve. While television companies ultimately pulled the plug for financial and reputational reasons, the moral argument about why Hill's material became uncomfortable for modern viewers is just as important. If you want to see the scene for yourself, be careful. Many of the clips online are presented without context. Watch with an eye for both the craft, the staging, the physical comedy, the editing, and the elements that make people uncomfortable today. Remember, history rarely turns on a single scene. Often it's a slow rotation of public feeling, industry pressure, and the bottom line. Benny Hill's goodbye was messy because it mixed all three. Closing thought for your video. This isn't just a story about one comedian. It's a case study in how cultural standards change, how businesses react, and how entertainment that made millions laugh can later make many of us wince. Use the one-scene myth to hook viewers, then walk them through the true, stranger, and more interesting story. A man who mastered a form of comedy, a public that slowly moved on, and a short meeting that turned the credits into a farewell.